Hello and welcome to the AVRUM ROSENSWEIG Show.
Welcome to one of the internet's best podcasts, where we dive deep into the lives of the extraordinary and fascinating people who leave an indelible mark on our world. Join us as we explore their captivating stories, remarkable achievements, and unique perspectives that shape history and inspire generations. Get ready to embark on a journey through the lives of inspiring people unlike any other.
Hello and welcome to the AVRUM ROSENSWEIG Show. My name is AVRUM ROSENSWEIG and I am here with my colleague and my friend, Rabbi Shlomo Gemara for PARSHA and PROSE. Welcome, Rabbi. How are you?
Thank you very much. Very excited. A few days before Pesach. What can be more exciting?
Do you prepare yourself both mentally and physically?
I try. I actually try every year to learn a little bit the Haggadah. I like to repeat things that I learned in previous years, and I always find something new, even in things that I repeat many, many times. I just love it.
Rabbi, when you say that you learned the Haggadah, does that mean there are particular svarim, particular books, resources that you use?
Listen, like any other learning, I'll tell you exactly how am I doing it, because especially in my age, I think it's important to prioritize your reading. So what I'm doing is, I first of all read with no commentary. I just want to read the bare text of the Haggadah. When I find a difficulty, I will write myself a note that I would like to explore a little bit more about it. But I want it to be my Haggadah. The moment I read other Perushim, it's not my Haggadah anymore. It's not the thing that I'm interested in. It's not the thing that draw my attention. So I prefer to start myself. By the way, that's the way I read Parshat Shavua. I will read Rashi and the Ramban and all the classic Mefarshim only after I have few questions about the Parsha. This way, it makes me my learning, not someone else's learning that is offered to me.
So can you give me an example of perhaps a quote or a Parsha, an aspect of the Haggadah, and how you would apply that?
So, for example, today I just read about the story in Bnei Brak, where the five elder great scholars of Torah are sitting together. And I asked myself for the first time, like, okay, what this story is helping us to understand that we need it in the Haggadah. Yeah, of course, in every generation, great people were sitting in the Haggadah and reading and learning the Haggadah. And I came to two conclusions, and I did not see them in any book, but it makes sense to me. Number one is that it's a follow-up of what was said before. Afilu kulanu chachamim, even if all of us are very wise, kulanu nevonim, we have lots of wisdom, kulanu yodim et Torah, we are Torah scholars. Nevertheless, there is a special mitzvah to tell the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim. And here is the proof. The proof is that even great people who knew the entire Torah, and for them, like the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim was obvious and known, they still engage in this night in telling the story, which tells us if they could do the mitzvah the entire night to tell the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim, and they were so knowledgeable, how much more we, not as scholars as Rabbi Akiva or Rabban Gamliel and all these people, we should do it. So this is on a very pshat of the level. But, I want to draw one more attention, because the story ends that their students had to tell them, guys, it's time to stop, because it's time to read Kriyat Shema, right? עד שבאו תלמידיהם ואמרו להם, הגיע הזמן קריאת שמע של ערבית, של שחרית. What does that mean? I think this is a very, very powerful statement. They had so much fun, so to speak, learning the Haggadah, that they didn't see that the time is like just passing so quickly. they really, time goes quickly when you have fun. And that's exactly what the Haggadah is telling us. These scholars had so much fun to talk about the stories of Yetziat Mitzrayim that time was not actually a factor at all. People had to come from the outside to tell them. And let me ask you, Avrum, when did you have experience recently? Maybe even years, that someone had to oh, it's so late, we have to go, and you didn't see that actually the time just passed quickly. Did you have a feeling like this? Maybe watching a movie, maybe seeing I don't know, like a sports game. Sometimes you don't pay attention to your
So
watch.
when I'm learning, and my son is here, I can get so embroiled and ensconced in what I'm learning. Time definitely takes on a different character, and I'll have to say, "Daddy, we're leaving. We have to go." So he'll wake me up from my learning.
I envy you. So you have it in a very I would say maybe daily, weekly, monthly basis. This is
Yeah,
fantastic. But
often, yes.
for most of us, we are just waiting that to finish some activity. And here, if you really want to understand how far you have to go in the story, in the mitzvah of telling the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim, here, look at these people. They simply did not see that times is going so fast. They were completely immersed into the story. And this is a good story, because when you see a good show, when you see a good movie, the time just go by. You actually don't want it to end. You want, if you read a good book, it happened to me many times. I read a good book, and when it comes to the last page, I'm so disappointed.
Yes, of course.
I could continue it more and more. And that's exactly the definition of the mitzvah this night. It's not only to go over the lines. It's really to immerse into the story.
So I have a writers club that I've started up, and we meet every second Sunday. So I have a chance to speak with novelists, some of whom have actually had 8 novels published. These are these are very prolific characters, and we talk about finishing a book and the idea behind it. And sort of consensus is that we become very close with the characters, almost like there's an emotional closeness with us. I've taken it a bit further, and I think that a closeness with a character in a book is a relationship with yourself more so than you would have not with that character. And I think when we have the opportunity to get to know ourselves better, as we do here through Parsha and Prose, through a novel, right? Through a character, and we have a better understanding of how we work our soul, our spirit. That doesn't happen in the mundane moments of life, but it does when you are reading. There's something very spiritual, something very holy about that. You're getting to know each other, and you don't want to leave yourself for that moment.
And great writers, they manage to infuse ruach chaim, like spirit, into the people. They stop being less even than a 2 dimension. They become from names and descriptions on the paper, they become real people.
Rabbi, we in Parsha and Prose with what we call Shivim Panim, which is what we're doing now, which is 70 faces of Torah, 70 faces of truth. And you and I have a discussion on a personal basis having to do with Judaism and Torah. They're always very robust, and they're always very, very compelling. A question I have for you with him Shivim Panim is that on Shavuot we read Megillat Ruth, on Purim we read Megillat Esther, on Pesach we read the Haggadah. Why
we also read Shir Hashirim, which is one of the Megillot, but this we do on Shabbos. But Haggadah is the text of Pesach, no question.
Okay, good. Well, why is there a text associated with each one of these holidays, and what sort of loosely defined was the process in establishing these specific texts for these holidays?
Well, I believe that the most important experience of Jewish life is learning. There is nothing as learning that made the Jewish people who they are. And therefore, education starts in a very young age, Veshinantam Levanecha, because with no education, I cannot see how a nation that went through the most horrific times of history can survive. If you don't know your own story, you will not exist for a long time. It's true about everything, but especially about the life of a nation that already exists something around 4,000 years. And therefore, I believe that our sages made sure that every holiday will be um, associated with text, something that will requires you to learn. So you brought, for example, the holiday of Shavuot, which is 50 days after Pesach, and the text is Megillah Truth. And what the text is teaching you, something magnificent, that the entire Torah is focused on one thing, on doing chesed. If you really want to understand what Torah is all about, it's about chesed. It's about helping others. It's about accepting other people and to give them the feeling that they are most important in the world, like Ruth, like about conversion, about the fragile and the person who comes from far away and become part of the Jewish people, and how she was treated as equal to every other Jew. This, if you really want to understand what Torah is all about, and we associate giving the Torah on Shavuot, you have to read and to learn carefully this text. About Pesach, I think we mentioned it before, it's not reading the Haggadah. The Haggadah starts with two words, Tse ulmad. You go and learn, and it's a big difference between learning and reading. Reading is a necessary step in learning, but it's about the learning, and therefore Chachamim replaced the whole ritual of Korban Pesach after the second temple was destroyed with a text, because text for us is like bringing a Korban in all times, because it forces us to the Jewish experience, which is connecting, okay, this time not through animals and sacrifice, but through the letter, through the word, to God.
I know that God tells us to tell the story to our children. I always got the sense that is as a Masorah. In other words, like my child, he should know what came before him. He should know who my parents were, even though they're not on this earth anymore, so that he can grow through their character, having, sharing some of their DNA. Is there a place in the Torah where God actually says, I want you to learn. I want you to learn Torah, not just as a Masorah, but to develop your intellect?
The mitzvah of Talmud Torah is associated with teaching the next generation. Every time that, it says, "Vayu advarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavcha hayom al levavecha." It's also individual mitzvah. But it's interesting that we learn the laws of learning Torah for myself as part of the system of teaching Torah to someone else. And obviously, when you teach Torah to someone else, you have to know the Torah for yourself. And therefore, the focus of the Torah is on the next generation. But in order to educate the next generation, you have to be educated. But we have to see how the Torah frame it. The Torah framing that our need to learn Torah become part of the system to teach others Torah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Are you excited in the morning when you do the tefillot, and one of them is actually a bracha for learning Torah that day?
I think it's a beautiful bracha. It's a beautiful bracha.
I do too. Me too.
Actually, give you the essence of the Jewish people. We start with Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Amim. God really chooses us from all the nations. How? What does it mean to choose the people? He did not mark us with something on our forehead or gave us, special abilities. That's not the idea. The idea is that he chooses us to learn the text that he himself wrote. And honestly, like when you learn and you go a little bit deeper, I think you start feeling that it's not like another book. It's a book given by the Creator himself. It's very hard to explain it through a podcast, but everyone who learns Torah will tell you about it. It's like a special kind of learning. Yesterday I was in touch with someone who told me that he's going to be 40 years old. I was not my student, but we met throughout the years. And he said, Rabbi Gemara, what would you suggest me, like for the birthday of 40 to do? I said, join a shir of Daf Yomi. I think you will appreciate it. In the first few weeks, it's going to be hard, but I think you will start to appreciate it. And I do believe it. I do believe that this is the greatest gift when you learn and you start to think about things more in depth and you hear the wisdom of others. You get the feeling that you are very much enriched by the text and by the wisdom behind them.
It's a great idea. We're a little bit more than 5 years into Daf Yomi, and I'm already considering when this cycle finishes, will I continue with Daf Yomi, or will I spend my time studying more Biyun? And Biyun is when you dive right into the text, you parse it, you try to understand it, you tear it apart, you put it back together. And I'll tell you where I'm at today, Rabbi. Today I'm at the discipline of Daf Yomi on a daily basis. To me is huge. It's one of the biggest parts. And I'm excited because it can be 12 o'clock at night and I haven't done Daf Yomi yet. And I say, I'm so tired, I want to go to bed. But I'll sit myself in front of the computer because I do it online, and I'll do Daf Yomi. So I think I'm going to continue the second cycle. My brother-in-law, Meir, he's done 4 cycles of Shas. 4 cycles. Yeah.
That's amazing. I envy you because when I'm tired, I'm tired.
Right. You're older than I am. Happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you very much.
So listen, about your birthday, I have a birthday present for you, which you may or may not want. If you don't want it, I'm perfectly fine with it. It's a painting that I did, and it's called Women by the Kotel, Women by the Wall. I'm going to show it to you. If you don't want it, I'm okay with it. And I had it framed too, by the way.
Oh, wow. I'm very excited. I'll tell you in a second why.
You'll see it.
Oh, wow. This is beautiful. Wow. Very rich in color. I love it. Okay. I'm sure that I will enjoy it even more when I see it up close.
You don't have to take it. If you don't want it, you don't have to take it.
No. Listen to this. I have to tell you, like, to be born on these days, tomorrow is my Hebrew birthday. Thank you very much. Here is a problem because it's before Pesach. Everyone, no one really cares about my Yom Huledet. So usually the school is already over, so I cannot celebrate it with my colleagues and students. Everyone in the family is in shopping and running and preparing the food. My wife is very busy in school and in the kitchen. So I feel like a chopped liver. Like who had a birthday like just before, like few days before Pesach. So the fact that you remember it and even bring a gift is highly appreciated, AVRUM.
So I'll tell you something. It's
not so much about the picture as much as like thinking about me and caring about it.
No, absolutely. There are a lot of people out there who say that they don't care about their birthday. And whenever they tell me that, I say as follows. I say, listen, in the moment that you were born, our existence, the world in which we live, God decided that we are going to shift ever so slightly. The world will. And there has never been another Shlomo Gemara, right, on the earth in all of these years. And there will never be another Shlomo Gemara. So that means that your existence is so highly unique. You were created B'Tselem Elokim. We're all created in the image of God. Yet within that, there's a uniqueness. And that's why I think birthdays are so important. Now, what's interesting, Rabbi, is there's only one mention of birthday in the Torah, correct?
Right. And it's about Paro. The whole story with the cupbearer and the baker happened on the Yom Huledet of Paro. We don't know actually when Moshe Rabbeinu was born. There is like a midrash that he was born on Zayin Be'adar, but it seems not to means much to our sages or to the Torah when a person was born, because age, I think in the Torah, is secondary to wisdom. So although we have a mitzvah to honor an older person, which is defined by years, Um, it's just because these people usually gained lots of wisdom throughout their life. But when the Torah is talking about an old person, she talks about his intellectual achievements, his chesed achievements, much more than just the fact that he lived many years. And I know many people, unfortunately, who lived that many years. But what is the content of all of this? Well, debatable.
Rabbi, throughout your educational career, and it should go on for many, many years, has there ever been a student and or students who you were mesmerized by their wisdom, by their chachma?
Um, I would say that almost every student that I spent 5 minutes to talk to always surprised me.
Mm.
And it's not unique only to my students. With my students, the surprise is as follow. I can teach someone for 1 year. I think that I know something about them. And then from nowhere, I learned that they are so unique. They are participating. They are helping like another boy or a girl with
Yeah.
disabilities, something that I never had the merit to do like for a long time. And these people take it like for granted that they are part of friendship circle, of all kind of organizations. And I said, wow, I teach you for that many months
Yeah.
and I really don't know you. I don't know how great you are. And this is happening to me so often. And I just learned that, good educators must talk to their students. They will be always surprised. They are so unique and so special. But sometimes they are, first of all, they are not aware to how special they are, number one. Number two, they will not tell you. If you are not going to dig in, you will never know about it.
Right. The reason why I do long form interviews is for exactly that reason, because the more I speak with someone, the more in depth the schmooze, if you will, the conversation, the more I discover about people, and the more I'm fascinated by people. I feel very strongly that there should be something which is called living eulogies, right? And not only that you hear these beautiful stories about people who pass in your life at a shiva, shalonida, we should know about it, but that when we're alive, that we pay tribute to people for the brilliance that they're responsible for. I remember there was a fellow on my street. I used to live on Sultana in Toronto,
Mhm.
and he was a curmudgeon. He was a curmudgeon. He was a tough old guy, bitter old man, and he used to complain to me about I didn't rake, I did rake. There was always problems with my lawn, according to him. Anyways, he passed away, and I think I don't even want to go to his shiva, but yeah, you push yourself. You knew the man. He was a Jew. He was a Holocaust survivor. I went. I sat with his wife, and she told me stories about how he had smuggled guns into Israel from Czechoslovakia in 1948. And I'm thinking to myself, my God, who was this? Who was my neighbor? I should have done the kafsrut here. I should have tried to find his narrative, his story, because you never know who you're sitting next to, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, there are so many fascinating people. And you know what? I'm sure that there are many people like this. I love to read eulogies about people,
Yeah, me
Jews,
too.
non-Jews, because it's always so surprising. Because you find about people and amazing things, even people that you didn't know, and like here are the life story, and people never knew about it. I always find it very fascinating.
Rabbi, before we get into Parsha and Prose, I do want to mention that you and I did a special interview, which is posted on YouTube today, uh, just a few days ago, and it was about Torah, leadership, and President Trump. And I suggest to people that they listen to it because I really wanted to get to the essence of what Torah says about leadership, responsibilities that we have as Jews, both for Jewish and non-Jewish leaders. I think you did a magnificent job. We don't agree on everything. That's very clear. But it was civil and it was friendly and it was warm. People can watch that. Any comment
And
on that?
I just would say, that after the interview, I thought about so many sources that I did not speak about, and
Yeah, it's always like that. Yeah.
but it's always like this. So I would welcome comments. Exactly as you said, it's very important to say it was not about Trump. It was about leadership and morals and what is the responsibility of us as Jews towards leaders of other nations. To me, I still think about this interview, and I found it very interesting. And you know what? Like in a good discussion, um, and it happened to me so many times in life. A few hours after the interview, I was not sure about certain things that I said anymore. And the next day, no, that's exactly what I think. And then I think, no, this is not what you. So,
Right, right.
so, and I consider this as a magnificent interview when it caused you to reflect and to try to find out
Yes.
what you really say and what you really think. And it's not always the same.
I also would like to add that I've just posted an interview that I did with Caleb SCHRAEDER. Caleb is a man who he's a Christian. He lives in Kansas City, and he was having a real difficult time in life. He hit what he called rock bottom. He wanted to kill himself, but he pulled himself up and he started to study. Christianity was not enough for him. He started to study Torah, and he is a real Torah scholar today. He did not convert because aspects of his family were not, it's problematic for him to do so at this point, but he considers himself to be a NOACHITE. Watch that interview. It's with Caleb SCHRAEDER, and you'll find out more what is a NOACHITE and how he lives his life and the brilliance of this man who considers himself not only to be someone who's highly spiritual, but he works as a trauma nurse, and he also considers himself to be a philosopher of woodworking. He did a beautiful, beautiful chest out of wood that he made, and he the philosophy of making it he applied to the song Haggadah in the Haggadah. So have a listen, and oh my gosh, people are so fascinating. It's unbelievable, as you mentioned. Now, ladies and gentlemen, today we're talking about Parsha Tzav, and we're doing it through the lens of the Haggadah. So let me tell you a little bit about both. This week's Torah portion, Tzav, which is Leviticus 6:1 to 8:36, focuses on the detailed instructions for the priests regarding various offerings and the ritual associated with the sacrificial system. The portion opens with the discussion of the Olah, a burnt offering, a mincha, a grain offering, shlamim, a peace offering, and chatat, a sin offering, highlighting the importance of maintaining holiness in the community through proper worship and ritual. Central to Tzav is the consecration of Aaron and his sons as priests, emphasizing the sacredness of their roles and the meticulousness required in performing their duties. This portion teaches not only the spiritual significance of sacrifice, but also the broader themes of devotion, purity, and the connection between the people of Israel and the Ribono Shel Olam and God. Now, the Haggadah. The Haggadah is the central text used during the holiday of Passover, particularly during the Seder meals. It serves as a guide for retelling the story of the Exodus when the Israelites were freed from Egypt. The Haggadah includes a narrative of Israelites suffering in their miraculous liberation and the subsequent journey to freedom, all while emphasizing themes of gratitude, justice, and of redemption. It contains a mix of prayers, blessings, songs, and explanations structured around the rituals of the Seder itself. The Haggadah also encourages participation and discussion as it invites individuals to ask questions, why, reflect on the meaning of Exodus, and connect the ancient story to contemporary experiences of freedom and oppression. Its goal is to ensure that the story of Exodus is passed down through generations, fostering a sense of continuity and spiritual connection among the Jewish community. So, Rabbi, as I always want to know is, why the connection between Tzav and the Haggadah?
The main connection that I make between the two is the idea of order in rituals. If you read the Parsha of Tzav, you are going to see that for every korban, you need a certain ritual, wearing certain clothes, doing one work exactly before the other one. If you messed up, sometimes you will have to bring a new korban. And I was always fascinated by the idea of Leila Seder. Like Leila Seder means the night of order. And the order of Leila Seder seems to be a very secondary issue, peripheral issue to the entire night. I would expect to call the night of the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim, the night of getting out of Mitzrayim. What is Leila Seder? The Seder means that you have to do Kadesh, Urchatz, Yachatz, Karpa. You have to do it in a certain order. Why is this any way to describe the Seder night with all its magnificence meaning? The order is just order. And there is no reason to read it. And the more I think about the idea of order in bringing a korban, like described in Parsha Tzav, or in the night of the Seder, or let's remember another order. What is Sidur, the book of prayers? It's also about certain order. The more you think about it, the more you understand the importance and the essential part of the order to the night, to the korban, to the prayers. And that's what actually attracted me to compare the two. And of course, let's admit it, obviously the proximity on time that Parsha Tzav is just before Pesach. So I said, you know what, why do we have to look for all kind of other literature? Let's see one of the greatest piece of literature. And by the way, you should know, Haggadah Shel Pesach is the most printed book in Jewish literature, more than anything else. Maybe second only to the Tanakh, obviously, but
yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, in terms of like, let's say, literature that was written after the Bible, the Haggadah Shel Pesach is the most printed one.
Rabbi, is the opposite of order tohu vavohu?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily, and this is the point that I really want to make, because I think that if we understand the idea of order in Korbanot, in Pesach, in davening, it's a very significant one, and it's not necessarily the opposite of order, because we have to ask, it's not the opposite of chaos, because chaos means like not only complete order, a lack of order, but really something that you have no control and no way to define, and so on. Listen, the truth is like this. If a person would start the night by eating matzah, by drinking 4 cups of wine, eating then the maror, or saying the Hallel before that, he will fulfill the mitzvot of the night. After all, we have a mitzvah to tell the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim. We have the mitzvah to eat matzah. We have the mitzvah to eat maror, and if we would do it in a completely different order, we will fulfill every mitzvah as it's written in the Torah. But we have to ask ourselves a question, what actually the Torah wants us to achieve on this very night? And there is lots of attention to every detail in this night, including the famous passage about the 4 different sons. Where it comes from. The Torah is talking about transmitting the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim in 4 times in the Torah. And our sages were concerned, like, why the Torah has to repeat the same idea 4 times? Just tell me once, V'yigadet lebincha, you have to tell your child. But the Torah knows that every child is different. And you say it about every person in the world. When we come to the process of learning, every teacher will tell you. You have this wise guy, you have the rebellious guy, you have the one who, like, okay, whatever you tell him, he will accept, and the one who is completely disengaged. And the Torah pays attention to every child, and she instructs the father or the teacher to make sure that no matter who is the child, what are his or her abilities, you must tell them the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim according to their abilities, no matter what. And you have to ask yourself, okay, so every teacher has a lesson plan, which will be the Haggadah in this case, but we have objective. We have like learning goals. What are the learning goals? What do you want the students to leave the class with? That's the most important part of any lesson, because you don't want the teacher to go to all direction. And at the end of the day or the lesson, the student will ask himself, okay, what did I learn actually? So what are the goals of the Seder night? The goal is, and let's define it in a lomdishe way. You told me that you want to learn Iyun. So we have in every mitzvah, we have the asiyah, we have the way you do the mitzvah, but you have the kiyum. You have also like how the mitzvah is really fulfilled. Let's take another example. You have the kiyat shofar. A person who blows the shofar in a certain way fulfills the mitzvah. If his heart is not moving, if his heart is not ready to accept God as the king, if the heart is not opening to do tshuva, what did we have here? We had, okay, the person can mark a V, he did the mitzvah, but he did not fulfill the mitzvah. The fulfillment of the mitzvah is an experience that happened in your heart. And the same is true about Leila Seder. Reading the Haggadah, well, you fulfilled the mitzvah. Or you did the mitzvah, you did the mitzvah. Fulfilling the mitzvah is בכל דור ודור חייב אדם לראות את עצמו כאילו הוא יצא ממצרים. In every generation, a person must see herself or himself like he or her left Egypt. It's about experience. In the night, you must come to this feeling, oh my gosh, like I feel myself that, you know, if this will not happen, I will be still in Mitzrayim. And by taking my forefathers from Mitzrayim, I actually went out of Mitzrayim, and I'm a free person. I'm a person who is lucky enough to be close to God. So it's about experience. The fulfillment of the mitzvah at this night is this unbelievable experience. And you know what? Everyone who wrote a play, everyone who attended ceremonies know that it's an art to bring a person from being a listener or being invited to a ceremony. Some ceremonies will leave an unbelievable impression on you, like the first speaker and a short tefillah, and then like a short movie, and then like someone comes to speak about her or his experiences. There is a way to build an experience. And the order is crucial. Because sometimes if you will do one before the two, you don't build this magnificent building of experience.
Momentum,
exactly. That's the word. Thank you for the word. So Leila Seder is creating a momentum that takes you from the feeling of the ordinary. You just sit around the table. And in 15 steps, which are the simanim, you go higher and higher and higher, but you have to recognize it, because sometimes you just go and you don't see that you were on level 1 and now you are on level 2. You have to recognize it. You have to realize it. You have to prepare yourself for it. It's like going on an elevator and, you know, it's all closed and you find yourself in a different place, but you don't appreciate every level that you went through. That's why I like very much the transparent elevators. You know, you see like you were in floor 1, 2, 3. If you ever visited Sea Kids, I love the elevator there. Like you see that you made a progress, like floor by floor. So that's exactly the idea of the Seder. You have these like 15 floors. You have to go from one to another. You build an experience. And this is exactly what happened with the Korban. And we said last week, the idea of a Korban is not just to bring an animal and to shecht it and to sprinkle the blood. You have to go through a serious process of reflection, shechting, taking the blood. You have to think about the blood. This is actually my own blood, my own sins that I have to own. And I have here an opportunity to renew my relationship with God, or I have a need for a korban todah, for example, of to be grateful to God. These are experiences, and experiences you must build. You cannot just go into this experience unprepared and not build, because then you miss something magnificent and important and essential to the experience itself. So I see all these issues of order in Korbanot, order in Pesach, order in your tefillot. You build the experience. You know, let's think about tefillah. You have Psukei de Dimra. You think about the greatness of God. Then your connection with God, which is like Kriyat Shema and the brachot before Kriyat Shema and after. And then, only then, when you already feel something about the awesomeness of God, you can stand and ask for yourself and for your family and for Am Yisrael. So you build something, and that's why it's called the Seder, why it's called Seder HaKorbanot, why it's called Leil Seder. That's the way I take it.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. I just curious, as they say in Aramaic, agavurcha. By the way, whenever you refer to the Torah, you always refer to it as her or she. Is that grammatic, or is that homiletic, or is it both, or what?
That's the way we call the Torah. The Torah is
Is female?
she, it's a female. Yeah.
Why?
Why, in more Kabbalistic way, we have to remember that the division, and I'm sorry if I'm not politically correct 100%, but the way the Jewish way to look on things, you have always like the mashpia and mushpa, namely the one who is active and one who is more passive and receive things. And God is always zachar, and is a male because he's the one who initiate, creates, active. And we, Knesset Israel, is also a female, or the Torah is a female, because this is something that came from God. So this is already something that is not the active part, but the perceived part. So this is how it calls Zachar and Nekeva, although obviously, like, we cannot call God a male or female. It's way beyond it, and the Torah the same. It's a very abstract thing, but I think that the whole idea, and Hebrew is a very gender language, a gender-based language, unlike the English, for example. But the main idea is not just to categorize between male and female, but the roles in the world of male and female. And in modern days, you might argue with it because I know many females who are very active and males who are more passive. But at the time of the Torah, I guess it was quite the opposite.
Right. For a moment there, I thought that maybe it's how you learned English. I've met many Filipinos here in Toronto whom, when I speak with them, they'll often confuse pronouns because I think in their own language, that's how they understand male and female differently than we would in English. Sometimes I hear people refer to certain things as she when it's really a he, and I'm thinking, okay, that's a cultural thing. All right.
Yeah, there might be a very cultural thing. I see this is one of the major problems we have in teaching Hebrew in general. Like, people who think about a language lacking gender, because you is you. In Hebrew, it's ata ve'at, or he vehu, might have difficulty in acquiring a completely different way of thinking. And my approach, by the way, to teach Hebrew is that at the beginning you have to, especially for English speakers, is to ignore it and to gain, to acquire this difference between male and female later. It's more important to me to be able to define nouns and verbs, and then you will get into the grammatical issue of he and she. But not every teacher will agree with me upon it, but I can see how much time is consumed by just going in your mind from a model of one language to another.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that you've developed a very cogent and exciting way of teaching Hebrew, because when I was learning Hebrew in yeshiva, there was many days we talked about Hifel and Nifel. I was completely lost. Completely lost.
It's a very calculated language, Hebrew. It's a fascinating language. I remember that I spoke once to a Russian doctor in Israel, and she told me, Rabbi Gemara, the Hebrew language is so wonderful because it's so based on math and models, and she was excited about actually this kind of, you have to think before you open your mouth if you are talking to female, to male, to subjugate every verb and every noun to the male and female. For many people, it's a nightmare. For some people, they love the math in it.
Rabbi, before I ask you the next question having to do with Parsha and Prose, the Parsha is Parsha Tzav, and the book that we are juxtaposing it with is the Haggadah for the holiday of Pesach. Just a very short Devar Torah. Well, you talked about the four sons before. Some people call it the four children. What I heard and what I like to say over, and I will be doing so at my Bernard Battelle Seder on the second night. I'll be doing a Seder for 200 people, older folks, which I'm excited about. You know, there's a thought that indeed the four sons really is one son or one child. How does that work? Look, when we're born, we're a tam. We're very simple. We don't know
Even
how
more,
to.
Sheino Yodea Lishol. We just take things as they are.
Right, and we cry, and all we need is food. We need our mother's milk. As we get a little older, I would say, then we become a Shana de Elisha, where, we think that we know a lot, but we really don't, and we go through that whole phase of asking, but yet pretending that we are the wise ones, and so on. But then we get to a point of the Russia, and the Russia is not really a wicked one according to this Devar Torah. It's somebody who says, I know everything, right? I know everything. Dad, you don't know, I know. And this happens as parents. We go through this all the time. My son, God bless him, he's 18 years old. He knows much more than I'll ever know. But then you come to the stage of being a chacham. What is a chacham? A chacham is somebody who is humble within their knowledge, where they sit back and they say, I'm completely aware of the fact that I know this much. Of all the wisdom in the world, it could fill up the entire planet and far, far more. I know little tiny bits of it. So really the four sons or the four children are representative of who each one of us is as we grow.
That's fantastic. And you know what I find fascinating? Because this morning I shared it with my students, and I did not talk to you before. And I shared with them the same exact idea. And when I came to the Russia, I said, if you want to see the Russia in the Haggadah, just take a mirror, because it's you guys, the people who challenge everything. you, you disagree with your parents, you disagree with me. And that's fine. That's fantastic, because this is a necessary stage in your life. Mark Twain once said, when I was 16, I couldn't believe how stupid my parents are. When I was 25 years old, I couldn't believe how smart they became over these years. So, the way we look in the world, and it's very, very important, because otherwise we will be copy of our parents. And sometimes it's wonderful. Sometimes it's not so good. Every generation has its own challenges. Every generation has its own missions. And what was wonderful for our parents is something different than we have to do. And what our children has to do is something very different from us. And you know what? I don't think that you need a better proof from seeing our young soldiers of Tzav. This is a generation that 3 years ago, everyone would say, they are so spoiled. They are always on their cell phone. They just care about social media and so on. And see these lions, see these people who, with not much hesitation, they go to make sure that the Jewish country and the Jewish people continue to survive. What does that mean? That the way you assess things belong to your generation. The new generation is different. And there is a very interesting word in Hebrew to a young fellow. It's called na'ar. Now, na'ar in Hebrew comes from the shorish, from the root of lena'er, to shake. Because that's exactly what teenagers are doing. They shake everything that they were educated by. They shake every opinion that they heard, and they try to find out what is it for me? Am I agreeing, disagreeing? For parents, it's highly frustrating. It's they sometimes they cannot believe to what they see. They try to make sure that you go in a certain path, and their daughter or their son are going completely on different direction. But this is a very necessary a part of their life. And I always tell parents, if you gave a good education to your child, most likely eventually he will go in this path. But you have to appreciate the fact that they have to find their own ways.
Rabbi, the portion of Tzav outlines the role of the priests in maintaining a connection to God. How does the concept of priesthood in Tzav mirror the concept of spiritual leadership and responsibility in the context of the Exodus and the Jewish people's journey to freedom?
So I will start with the Haggadah. I believe that in the Haggadah, every parent is a priest. One of the most magnificent things is that although the Pesach night, with bringing the Korban to Yerushalayim, with the entire nation gather around the temple, when all this ceased, there was a danger that the entire Jewish people will cease when they have no temple, they have no ritual, important ritual as Leila Seder, and many societies will just dissolve into nothingness when they lose the most important part of their religious life, the temple and the korbanot. And our sages, they should be blessed for this and for many other things, but especially for this. They did not lose their spirit. They replaced this magnificent ritual with another, with reading the Haggadah. And they appointed the parents. Okay, they say, we have no Kohanim anymore. We don't have the priest. We don't have the Korbanot. You are going to be the priest. You are going to bring the Korban in teaching your children what is the meaning of Jewish belief, what is the meaning of being part of the Jewish nation. So if you ask where are the Kohanim, it's not the people who get the first Aliyah, like myself. The Kohanim of our generation are the teachers. The Kohanim of our generation are the parents who teach their children. This is the greatest Korban, and especially, let's be honest, about in the diaspora where you have to pay like thousands upon thousands of dollars. This is a major, major sacrifice. But this is the only way to maintain relationship with God. So we are the new priests.
Yeah, that's beautiful. One day we should talk about on one of our podcasts what exactly happened, what exactly the feeling was, what exactly the fears were when the temple were destroyed. I don't think I have a full picture of that. I think, okay, the temple was destroyed and move on. You create a shul. But it was tragic and it was a huge crisis, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm sure it was like many people experienced after the Holocaust. Like,
yeah, right.
They lost their city, they lost their shul, they lost their minhagim, they lost their culture, they lost everything. But the Jewish people, we have to say that they always found a way. It started in Egypt, and it went through our history, that we build a new culture very, very quickly. We never lose our spirit, and we replace one thing in another meaningful thing. And I think that's the secret. This is the fountain of life for the Jewish people, the ability to never lose our spirit and to rebuild what was destroyed.
Rabbi, in the Haggadah, we are commanded to see ourselves as if we personally were came out of Egypt, as you said. How does the sacrificial system described in Parsha Tzav help the Israelites maintain a sense of personal and communal connection to God, similar to how we connect to the Exodus during the Seder?
We have to remember that the Exodus through the Seder is focus on one major event, because everything that happened in Mitzrayim lead to one event, which is ועכשיו קרבנו המקום לעבודתו, and now God brought us closer to Him. There is a purpose in the whole thing of Yetziat Mitzrayim. For us, it's not only like a national liberation, like for many other nations that were inspired by the Jewish story, but for us, we focus also on the spiritual redemption. Remember this one. We start mitchila uvdei avodah zara yu avotenu. We start the Seder with telling about our forefathers and our poor background. Our family came from idol worshippers. But the greatest achievement through Yetziat Mitzrayim was that now we are very close to God. God decided to give us the Torah to this family that came from nowhere, from idol worshippers. We were inspired to be the nation of God, to receive the Torah of God. And that's the essence of Yetziat Mitzrayim, coming closer to God. If you think about the Parsha of Vayikra, the Parsha of Tzav, that's again the story. There is a way to come closer to God. It can be through learning, it can be through korbanot. As we say, העולם עומד על שלושה דברים, the world, and I would say the world that connect our world and the higher world of God is על התורה, על העבודה, על גמילות חסדים. These are the three ways that you can come closer to God. Number one, learning His Torah. Number two, doing the korbanot, which is the avodah of korbanot. And the third one, being close to the people of His nation, to do gmilut chasadim, to make sure that the Jewish nation is always taking care. If there is a poor person, if there is a widow, if there is a convert, there is people in the sides of the society, you make sure that they feel in the center of society. This is another way not to come closer to your neighbor, come closer to God.
Rabbi, within the Torah, we'll find many different types of korbanot. We see that within this parsha, the previous one and the subsequent ones, some of those korbanot are burnt offerings, grain offerings, peace offerings, sin offerings, guilt offerings, wave offerings, and so on. Some of them are eaten by the Kohen together with the person who brings them. Now, there is a beautiful and most important line in the Haggadah, which is called Dichvin Yesa V'Echlu, that let all who are hungry come and eat. Was there any aspect of the korbanot that were shared with the poor?
Absolutely. Absolutely, yes. And I'm sure that around Beit HaMikdash came poor people to enjoy some of the korbanot that were shared. The most important one was the Korban Todah, which is mentioned in our Parsha. The Korban Todah that the person brought after he suffered serious illness, or he was saved after traveling in the sea where there was a storm, a person who spent time in captivity, like in Gaza, and was freed. These people had to bring Korban Todah. Now, if you go through the details of Korban Todah, you are going to see that, like, the magnificent amount of food and bread that has to come with the Korban Todah, a regular family, a regular person cannot eat it all. Cannot. Especially when the Torah gave a very limited time to eat it. You have to finish everything in a very short time. What does that mean? You must invite people to finish it, because one of the laws about any korban is that you cannot leave the flesh for more than certain time, because it becomes notar. You cannot take it home and to put it in the freezer or to eat it tomorrow. No. You have to finish it very, very quickly. Now you have great amounts of food, like I have now, like a few loaves of bread in the refrigerator. I don't know what to do with them, so I told teachers, if you want, just help me to get rid of the chametz. I'm not going to have anything to do with it. I cannot use it in few days. So you want to share. You want other people to enjoy it. And the same thing, I'm sure, happened on a daily basis in Beit HaMikdash. Many poor people came to help you to eat the great amount of food that a person by himself or even with his family could not eat himself. So not in every, but in many korbanot, certainly there was an idea of sharing it with others. There was another event, the Volozhiner Rav explained, Anatsiv Volozhin explained, that by inviting many people and telling them the story, you actually express the story of the time that you spend in the hospital, and you sometimes saw that you will never come healthy from it, and how terrible was your experience in captivity, and so on and so on. So the more people you can tell the story and to give thanks to God for what He did for you, because part of being grateful is to share it with others. So we share the story, and we share the food come with this story. So certainly the Torah wanted us to share even some of the korbanot with others. I'm not talking about the Kohanim. The Kohanim themselves, this was one of the major sources of food for them, the korbanot. You take the shlamim and you have to give certain parts to the Kohanim. So the Kohanim who served in Beit HaMikdash, they had their barbecue every single day.
Mhm. Rabbi, what indeed is the chiyuv or the instruction of Kol Dichvin Yosef V'Yechu today? How are we supposed to actualize that?
Uh,
Those who are hungry, let them come and eat.
that's a very good question, because I'll tell you, I will ask you another question. We say it in the beginning of the Seder, that everyone who needs food should come and sit with us. Everyone who needs Korban Pesach have to come to sit with us. And now this is contrary to the halacha, especially when you talk about the Korban Pesach. When you shech the Korban Pesach, which was a few hours before at the time of the temple, you have to shecht it when you know all the people that are going to eat from the korban. So who do you invite now? Like if you shecht it a few hours ago, you already know who can eat from it and who can't. And a person who will knock on your door in the last minute cannot actually join the korban pesach, because he was not in mind when they shecht the pesach. And the same thing. Listen, everyone who is going to shul was invited already. You start the Pesach. Do you really expect anyone to knock on your door and to say, I want to join you? It's not happening. The idea of Kol Dichvin, and I think I heard it once in one of the lectures of Rabbi Sachs, Zichrono Livracha. He said a beautiful idea. Only free people can share their food with others. Slaves will always keep the food for themselves. And by the way, the reason why we break the matzah, one of the reasons is it's lechem oni. And ani, a poor person, say, okay, I have food for tonight, but what will happen tomorrow? So what he's going to do is to break the matzah, to have half for now and half for tomorrow. That's the nature of a person, and he will never share it with you because he's not sure that he will have something to eat tomorrow. So Rabbi Sachs, so saying it, like inviting people beyond the invitation, shows a state of mind. I can invite people to my table. I'm a free person. I'm not a slave anymore who will never be able to invite people to the table of his master. And Rav Sachs tells the story, I think, about Primo Levi, who was in Auschwitz, and he could not be taken even to the death march. He said, when did he know that he was liberated? So he speaks about like 10 people who stayed behind with typhus, and the Germans were sure that they will die in a day or two. They found some food, and one of them offered a piece of bread to the other people in the barrack. And he said this was a moment of liberation, because the rule in the camp was you keep your food only to yourself, and if you can steal from your friend, it's even better. You never share your food with someone else, because sometimes it was a death sentence for yourself. So you cannot be kind to others. He said the moment this Jew shared with us his food, I knew that we were liberated. And Rav Sachs takes this story to explain what is halach ma'anya. The moment you can share your food with others, then you are a free person.
Beautiful. You know, when I used to go out on the Via Hafta van, it's a humanitarian organization, Jewish humanitarian organization, which I was honored to launch in 1997. We would go downtown in a van together with volunteers, and we would give food and drink out to the homeless, and books and eyeglasses and clothing and all kinds of things. And thank God, Via Hafta is very, very vibrant today and does this on a regular basis. You should go out on the van, because if you want an experience to understand those who are hungry, let them come and eat. There's no better way of doing it than on the Via Hafta van. The number is 416-964-7698. But very often, Rabbi, when we would go under the bridges of the Gardner Expressway, or we would find ourselves in front of City Hall where many homeless people would sleep, we would hand out a sandwich to an individual, and they would take it, and a hot drink and maybe some soup. And the food was actually quite good that was prepared, and it's even better today. And then we would offer another sandwich before we would leave. And what I would hear on a regular basis from that person was, listen, there's a woman who lives down the road from here also under the bridge by the girders there. You'll see her, and she needs the sandwich much more than I do. So please deliver it to her. I'm okay.
Very
I'm
interesting.
okay. Magnificent, no?
Very interesting.
So, Rabbi, in conclusion, I have a question here, which I honestly don't know if I'm addressing properly or not, but you'll tell me. I did a little bit of research into various forms of education because I think that you and I will probably be talking more about education, more specifically Jewish education. And here's what I found in terms of the different modalities. I'll just name a few modalities that I came up with in teaching, how a teacher should teach. One of them is a project called project-based learning. Another is inquiry-based learning. Another is called flipped classroom. In a flipped classroom, traditional teaching is reversed. Instead of receiving lectures during class time, students learn the content at home through videos, readings, or other resources. Class time is then used for collaborative activities, problem solving, discussion, and hands-on application. There's a thing called gamification. It integrates elements of game design and so on. And then there's collaborative learning. So here's my question, and I hope it makes sense to you. Of those different modalities, which one is best applied to the learning of the Haggadah on the Seder night?
Let me ask you a question, like a good Jew. We answer one question with another one.
With a question, yes.
Yeah, with a question. What is the common denominator to all these ways and methods of teaching?
You're asking me.
Yeah. The common
Yeah,
thing is that we want the student to be engaged.
yeah.
That's so some students will be engaged by doing a project, some students by asking their own questions, which is very much like what is happening in the Seder night. The reason why we do strange things on Leila Seder, like dipping twice, is in order to raise a question from the student, which happened to be our child or a family relative. So the Torah for sure goes a lot to engage people through question, which is a very Socratic way to learn the Haggadah. But I know many parents who will go to the project and they will prepare all kind of like special tables, special a portion of the meal. They will decorate the whole room in a certain way because they feel that their kids will engage through it. So everything, including the flip classroom, which is actually give more responsibility to the child to prepare. And when he will come to class, we will discuss the bigger concepts and the bigger ideas. We also do in the Haggadah because we just very briefly we say what happened in Egypt. We don't even read the full chapters from Exodus. We just say something in a very short way. And all the rest, it's ulmad. It's your responsibility to learn it. And we teach our children. You have to learn it. It's not just like hearing a story. So I would say that every method that will make the people around the table more engaged in the story, more engaged in understanding how awesome is this night, is welcome. Some people will be more engaged by project, some by inquiry, some by learning before and bring their ideas. And if you find another one, this will be also welcome. The most important thing is to be engaged in learning the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim.
So when you do your Passover Seder, or when your children were younger and you did it for more of your kids, were you the lecturer? Were you the ones who read the Haggadah?
I was not too creative. Now I'm a little bit regret it because sometimes, especially in social media, you see like people like putting hours and hours in decoration, in doing all kind of special things. I wouldn't say lecturer, but we based it a lot on inquiry. We ask questions, many questions. Remember that the children comes from school already with many questions. What is Areini keben 70 shana and so on. There are like already like set a question that you cannot escape on Leil Seder. To be honest with you, there is also a little problem here because people are so much like focused on all kind of deeper in Torah and like this explanation and so on, and they forget that the most important part of the night is to tell the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim. It's not like a competition of words, of like ideas about the Haggadah. You really have to experience Yetziat Mitzrayim. You have to think about all the aspects of Yetziat Mitzrayim. What does it mean to be? So this year, B'ezrat Hashem, with my grandchildren, I'm afraid that my children are already too old for this. I plan actually to bring the Haggadah closer to them because we are going to see it through the lens of children that left Mitzrayim. What did they think? And I'm sure that I'm going to be very surprised because even though I like to talk to children and to grown-ups, you will be always fascinated with views of little children and how do they see things in a very different way than you. So that's what I'll try to do this Seder, to try to imagine everything through the eyes of children.
Is that why the Diary of Anne Frank is so attractive to people?
The what? I'm sorry?
The Diary of Anne Frank. It's a
absolutely.
Yeah.
This is such a good example because you talk about the life of a real person. And when we read the Haggadah, we learn about someone that we don't know, someone that lived many, many years ago. And it's very, very difficult to bring it to ourselves. Like, what is our part in the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim? And I want to say one more thing, because we always focus on the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim, and not too many people pay attention to the fact that the Haggadah is actually the middle of the road. Namely, you have the whole part of the Haggadah, which is talking about the future. We are talking about the Hallel, how Hashem is going to redeem us, and Yetziat Mitzrayim was maybe just like second fiddler to the redemption in the future. That's why we say the Hallel. We end the Seder with Leshana Haba B'Yerushalayim Habnuya, which means, well, we are just in the middle of the road. Next year, we hopefully will be in the end or the continuation of Jewish history, which is not here in Toronto, it's in Yerushalayim. And I think we sometimes forget this part. It's very easy to talk about the past, but we have to see the past only like one station. It's a long subway station. We are maybe very close to Union Station, but we have to remind our children that, we are coming there, we are getting there. It's not only about what happened in Mitzrayim. This is like the Downsview station, Yorkdale. No, we are already like, what is it there, St. George or something like this, very close to the Union Station. And this is a very important part of the Seder, to give this feeling that the same as God redeemed our forefather, one day he will redeem us. So it's better to think about like living in Yerushalayim, in Israel, hopefully in peace, in security. I think it's also a very important part of the Seder.
Amen. Do you do a model Seder at Chat, your school?
Some classes are doing it. We have a beautiful table which is set for the Seder. Obviously with a chair for the Chatufim that we want to see very, very close. Listen, it's unbelievable. 550 days already in captivity. Who could imagine this? And we have to think about it. And it's such a beautiful minhag where people leave one chair, not only for Eliyahu, but for our brother and sister that we hope to see very, very soon next to the Seder table.
I'd like to conclude our Parsha and Prose today with a poem that AI has written about Parsha Tzav.
I hope the poem is kosher LePesach, AVRUM.
It is. We've done a badika, I promise. From Tzav, it's called From Tzav to Freedom. In the fire that burns the offering's grace, Zot Torah ha'olah, a holy embrace, a call to the priest to purify the way, to tend to the altar night and day. The flame that ascends, a sign so bright, a reminder of Egypt, the dark of the night. In every generation we rise and we see, B'chol dor v'dor, it's as if we are set free. The bread of affliction, our ancestors' plight, the matzah we eat with hearts full of light, from the smoke of the sacrifice, from ritual to prayer, we find ourselves standing no longer in despair. Avadim hayinu, we were slaves, we recall. But now as the Seder unfolds, we stand tall. The priests of old tended the flames with care. Now we tend to the story with freedom to share. From Tzav's instructions to the Seder's command, a journey of rituals, together we stand. With fire and faith and questions we ask, we lift up our voices in freedom's tasks. For as we tell the story, as the children inquire, the flames of the past in our hearts still inspire. From Egypt's dark chains to the altar's bright light, we are free as the Torah commands to rise and to take flight. You know what stood out for me in this discussion that we had? When you said today, we the parents and we the teachers are the priests. Like that.
Okay.
Wonderful point. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you very much for watching and for listening. We appreciate it very much. And we look forward again to being with you next week after your Sidorim, after Shabbat. We wish you a very holy time. We ask you to embrace the learning of Torah and to share it with your children and your grandchildren and those people whom you invite to your Seder. Make it robust. Make it beautiful. Dig a little bit. Spend a little bit of time studying the Haggadah prior to the Seder itself. My dear sister Naomi, God bless her soul, has passed away. I remember that prior to the Passover Seder, her head would be inside of not only one Haggadah, but many Haggadahs. They would be laid out in front of her on the table. And to me, that's one of the most beautiful pictures when you have all these Sforim and books in front of you. And she would underline with the yellow underliner. So when Passover Seder came, even though she was tired from preparing, she had all these ideas and all these questions in her mind. Do that. It makes the Seder so much more beautiful. Rabbi, any final words?
Beautiful. I just want to wish our listeners Chag Kasher v'Sameach, and really that this Pesach will help us to strengthen the Jewish identity of ourselves, of everyone who come in touch with us. This is so important, especially now when so many people struggle with their Jewish identity. What does that mean? Leila Seder can change everything. And I hope that we will take the opportunity, because that's the reason why we have the holiday. That's the reason why we have certain mitzvot. As I say, to fulfill the eternal experience that we actually left Mitzrayim. So Chag Kasher v'Sameach to all.
And as you said a few minutes ago, Rabbi, the hostages should be released immediately, and God should watch over the IDF, the Chayalim and the Chayalot, and their parents and their family, and all Jewish people everywhere. And God should watch over the entire world and all good people. So until we meet again, Shabbat Shalom, Chag Sameach. Thank you so much for being part of this. We're very, very grateful, and we look forward to being with you again. Thank you.